Good evening, President Ossenberg, board members, and guests. Next month will mark our second year since the launch of our current continuous improvement plan, Maximizing Potential Blueprint for Student Success. Tonight, we'll take a step back and look at the broader implementation and how our work connects and aligns with intentionality. You'll also hear an update on how we are progressing toward our strategic goals, and Dr. Smith may also chime in with additional information throughout this update. Maximizing potential is the result of the vision, input, and research of many stakeholders, including this board who adopted our plan in November of 2016. Our blueprint outlines our strategic goals through 2021, which align to lasting success for students and the kind of transformation we want to see impact our entire community. The work of our continuous improvement plan focuses on 3 strategic priorities. Priority 1 is student learning through GAIN. Priority 2 is human capital. And priority 3 is infrastructure. The work happening within these 3 priorities are designed to help us achieve our vision, excellence, and student achievement. Our 3 priority areas bridge our previous continuous improvement plan with our current plan. The priorities did not change, but instead our current blueprint focuses on deepening the work we started. Here you can see that cohesiveness in a timeline with some of the strategic initiatives EVSC has implemented. In the red priority 1 bar, you see strategies we've implemented that target student learning through GAIN. We've developed systems to support all learners, such as response to intervention and multi-tiered, multi-domain systems of support. This is predicated upon the needs of all learners across all areas of academics, college and career readiness, and social emotional learning, or SEL. It is also why we've invested in SEL professional learning, curriculum and instruction, and practices aligned into EVSC's vision for teaching and learning, where we are shifting to a shared instructional vision where students own their own cognitively complex learning.
If you could, let's just, because I shared this with the principals last week and probably had a 30 to 35 minute conversation just on the slide. There is a tremendous amount on the slide, and Carrie has done a phenomenal job of putting these in lanes associated with our priorities, but there are many initiatives that go beyond just that one priority that really do impact our work in multiple ways. And I've said this many times before, but and actually at the end of this presentation, I believe it was Member Duckworth that asked about teachers' acceptance of coaching and their comments. So we have, all along the way, we've had Mass Insight actually track that. So I'll show you some metrics and some slides associated with that. But for instance, in 2017, when we rolled out the Vision for Teaching and Learning, which was done after a year-long study and 100 and some odd participants in focus groups that were teachers that had input into that. And we really did that because employee voice is critical. Certainly teacher voice is very, very important when we're establishing our vision for teaching and learning, and the real impetus to establish our vision for teaching and learning, because as we continue in Indiana to change standards very frequently, it creates a very unstable environment and unstable platform in terms of assessment. So as that continues to shift and evolve, it really does destabilize your metrics, and it's difficult to discern if you're making progress and the types of progress and the areas in which you're making progress. So that's why we instituted the Vision for Teaching and Learning after a year-long study. And that in and of itself would not move classroom instruction. You could always have the aspirational goal of what vision for teaching and learning looked like in classrooms, but unless you had systems and structures that could actually operationalize that vision into standard practice, you really don't have anything other than a vision. So that's why our coaching model is so important. And because of the coaching model, and I'll share those metrics with you upon Carrie's conclusion of this, but because of the success of that and the work that we've done in partnership with Mass Insight, that's now an adopted model in the state of Massachusetts as well as in Colorado. And Rick just talked with folks in Florida today, actually associated with the Florida General Assembly, about what we've done in Evansville, because I think the comment that she said, and Rick might have you come to the microphone here after we've shared some coaching metrics, but basically they contacted us because we don't just take carte blanche what the state has provided. We truly do work with our teachers and with our employees to try to get the best system possible. That's why our evaluation system, I think, is second to none in Indiana, and why we have a compensation model that actually incentivizes teachers to work at our highest need schools. So I just wanted to take a moment briefly, as compared to the principal meeting, to really talk about how all of this interplays with one another. So thank you, Carrie.
Thank you. And you actually saved me a lot of talking on this slide. So I would absolutely concur. And to sum it up, the vision for teaching and learning would be nothing without the coaching model bringing this to life. None of the priorities would be as effective without what we're doing in priority 3 and focusing on truly having continuous improvement in place across all the priority areas and having those strong communication systems in place and infrastructure to support all the work happening in that instructional core. So absolutely, we can't easily pick one strategy and say it fits nicely into this priority area, because they all do work so well, so cohesively together.
And have we arrived? Absolutely not. But as I've stated many times before, when you do a peer comparison against 9 other school corporations that are similar in our size and demographics, we have been the only school corporation that have moved up in that ranking, second only to Vigo County. Vigo County has no private or parochial schools or charter schools, so all their students attend their schools. And I say that simply because they do educate everyone. But it's interesting to note that the longer we have our students, then it's no longer that we're second. We're first in 6th grade outcomes, first in 7th grade outcomes, first in 8th grade outcomes. So I think that's a testament certainly to the hard work of our teachers, and appreciate the leadership of this board to continue to stay the course and to invest in things that matter most.
So let me ask you on priority 1, like LSI back 2015 to 16. I remember when we were first talking about that, and we had some help, and then we had some of our own people implementing into other schools. Are we now in all schools by 2018 with LSI?
No, we're not. LSI really, I think, was a seminal point in where we shifted. It was really the precursor to Vision for Teaching and Learning, and making certain that students are responsible for their learning. You know, the old models where the teacher would stand and lecture for the entire period, that may work for a segment of students, but as we know that students learn in very individual and unique ways, we also have to incorporate different methodologies from a pedagogical standpoint, not just content improvement, but also delivery improvement. So this really does, it was a perfect fit for social emotional learning, and to make certain that students then have the ability to actually be independent owners of their learning, to work in groups. I know it feels like I've repeated this for many, many times, but the most effective metric for demonstrating a student's future success is their success with executive functioning skills. It is not a high-stakes test, which is what Indiana and almost all other states use to measure their student growth. And by the way, that test was never meant to do what they're now asking it to do. So LSI was brought in to help us shift, really a paradigm shift in the way we approach educating students. And along with that, I think we're one of the very few districts that I am aware of that also is building our internal capacity so that when LSI goes away, we will have that knowledge built within ourselves. That's the same premise that we've utilized for Mass Insight. So as we near the end of our partnership with Mass Insight, we have built capacity within EVSC to carry that work on. I think history is replete with school districts and others that bring in a third party, and then when that third party leaves, all the knowledge and experience and expertise leaves with them. We certainly have taken a different approach.
Now we'll switch gears a bit and discuss how we're doing. We know we cannot improve at scale what we cannot measure. New in this plan, we've identified strategic goals for each priority. These strategic goals serve as overarching driving goals aligned to EVSC's vision. For priority 1, we want to ensure all students will develop to their maximum potential and be successful throughout every stage of life. For priority 2, we want 100% of our employees to feel engaged and equipped to do their work and believe in the vision of EVSC. We also want our employees to see themselves as part of that vision. For priority 3, we will build upon a culture of continuous improvement with systems and structures working together to advance EVSC's vision. Another thing you'll notice that is different from the prior plan is that we have broken our 3 strategic goals down into 24 clearly defined annual performance measures. We've set annual goals for these measures through 2021, backwards mapping where we need to be annually to be on track to achieving our vision. So tonight I'll share how we're progressing on those 24 measures detailed in 3 KIPP scorecards, 1 for each priority area. One of the things you'll notice is that many of the measures tell us how we're improving as a school district, that they're actually based on what our employees as experts in the field report back to us. We've emphasized that professional feedback is an essential component of our continuous improvement process. Let's begin by looking at our overall rate of improvement towards these measures. In priority 1, we saw an average increase of 1% across 10 measures. For priority 2, we saw an average increase of 5% across 7 measures. And in priority 3, we saw an average increase of 3.3% across 7 measures.
And the term for this is 1 year.
Right, in 1 year. We've also looked at the percent of measures meeting greater than 90% of the benchmark goals established for the year. In priority 1, 70% of the related measures demonstrated they met at least 90% of the goal they intended to meet. In priorities 2 and 3 both, 100% of the measures met greater than 90% of the benchmark goals. While we may not have met all of the aggressive measures we set out, we did see tremendous growth across all 3 priority areas. What that looks like across all 3 areas is that collectively, nearly 80% of our measures indicated they met or improved towards the benchmark goals that were established. Okay, so now we'll take a look at each priority area, starting with priority 1, student learning through GAIN. Priority 1 targets strategies directly aligned to the PELP instructional core, student, teacher, and content. Strategies such as vision for teaching and learning, our comprehensive counseling model with multi-tier, multi-domain systems of support, and self-framework review a snapshot of the work we are doing for priority 1. Before I show you the KIPP scorecards, here is a quick key to help interpret the results. I'll give you just a few seconds to look at how you interpret the dashboard. So here is the first KIPP scorecard for priority 1. If you have trouble reading this, board members, you do have a printed copy right in front of you. There are some strong highlights to share here. We know in order to achieve our vision and goals, students have to be engaged and they have to have hope. Student hope and engagement are 2 of our measures we are holding ourselves accountable to, both demonstrating growth as measured on the Gallup Student Survey. These types of measures mean much more to us than a single state measure. Student hope increased by 4% in a year, and student engagement increased by 8% as demonstrated on the scorecard. Research shows these are essential predictors to student achievement. Gallup conducted an in-depth study demonstrating a 1 percentage point increase in a school's average student engagement score was associated with a 6-point increase in reading achievement and an 8-point increase in math achievement. One additional note on this, we are performing above the national mean on both student hope and student engagement. We have also seen tremendous growth in measures related to social emotional learning. This past year, we had a focus on professional development related to social emotional learning. There was 7% growth in staff reporting high-quality professional growth opportunities related to SEL, and also 7% growth in staff reporting it's important to incorporate SEL into their role. Priority 1 is the only scorecard of the 3 in which you will see any red at all, and it's important in improvement to dive into those measures that did not progress. For example, the percent of self-perceived competencies among counseling staff to address academic, college and career readiness, and social emotional learning needs of students declined by 13%. There were a couple of things at play here, with one of the main things being that this was a year we learned a lot about multi-tiered, multi-domain systems of support. If you will recall, we were rewarded the Lilly Counseling Grant, and as a result of that grant opportunity, our counseling staff spent this past year unpacking, researching, and learning more about their roles. The realization is that they perceived there was much more in place systemically than we were actually practicing, particularly in the area of college and career readiness. In essence, the reason we sought the Lilly Grant out was to discover more about what we didn't know. While any red is disappointing, it is expected. So we'd suggest this is our true baseline, now that we know how to accurately assess. We're also doing things to systemically address this need. That's evident in why we've created opt-in and why we've since been mapping college and career readiness curriculum and teaching future readiness lessons for all students in grades K through 12. That's why we continue to develop opportunities like the Governor's Work Ethic Certificate and continue to expand offerings for career pathways that align students' interests and skills with multiple career options. I'd also call out, if you look at reading and math measures from NWEA, reading declined by 1% and math declined by 3% from the baseline. It is a little bit misleading. It's important to note that our actual measure was taken 2 months earlier than the prior year's baseline, so it's not truly an apples to apples comparison, and we'll reset the goals moving forward with the change in timeline in mind. We actually moved the timeline as a result of teacher input. They wanted the data earlier to be able to inform their instruction, and we definitely wanted to do that for them. We'll now look at Priority 2, Human Capital. Priority 2 is based on our belief that every employee matters and makes a difference for EVSC students. Investing in our employees with initiatives like We Care, early learning, and the coaching model are examples of our human capital work. One of the things we've also done as part of our human capital is to leverage strategic partnerships that help us stay up to date with research-based best practices and build our internal capacity for scalable and sustainable improvement. And while every individual in the organization may not get the chance to work directly with one of these partners, we all collectively benefit from the partnerships and the valuable learning they bring into our organization. Here is the Priority 2 KIP dashboard or KIP scorecard. One big thing to celebrate, every single measure improved. One of the highlights here is that there was an 8% increase in employees reporting satisfaction with the employee benefits available. Things we put in place for our employees demonstrate that we know at EVSC great people matter, and the focus of Priority 2 is to take care of our people. And finally, we'll look at Priority 3, Infrastructure. Priority 3 really helps us focus on applying systems and improvement processes in a way that we are always getting better at getting better. This quote from the Carnegie Foundation really captures the work of Priority 3. Getting good at getting better necessitates shifting from thinking of improvement as an intention to investing in formal methods to actually achieve it. In other words, we can't hope and wish our way into improving. Priority 3 is really about investing in the infrastructure for improvement, such as our implementation of Plan, Do, Study, Act models and rapid cycles of continuous improvement. We've invested in performance management within our district continuous improvement planning process. Not only did we unpack the strategic goals into annual performance measures that you're seeing here tonight, but we unpacked those measures into key indicators that we can measure in short or medium-term cycles. We refer to these as our improvement measures to provide us with more frequent markers of our strategic work impacting our desired outcomes. Not only will you see individuals and departments continuously monitoring their progress toward district KIP goals, but we also integrate performance management into our executive team meetings and ensure all EVSC departments are collectively represented and participating in the improvement work. So here is our Priority 3 scorecard. Again, just like Priority 2, you'll notice we improved in every single measure. One highlight to note while you're reading through the scorecard is that for Priority 3, staff reporting the district's job of communicating with employees as good or excellent improved by 6%. This reflects so many things that have happened, including going out into the field to listen and learn from employees about how we can do a better job at communicating. Their feedback was utilized very intentionally to improve how we communicate with our employees. Again, structures like Employee Voice, EVSC Connect, emails that notify employees what's new so we can help employees maximize their time working directly with students are some of the examples of things that we've been doing here. All right, so that wraps us up. Thank you for the opportunity to share more about what we're doing for the district continuous improvement planning process. I will close by asking if there are any questions or feedback about the process.